Hey guys, it's me, Javier. Today's episode is a bonus episode. You see, I'm trying this new thing where I'm inviting listeners like you to co-host an episode with me. So I've asked my Patreon supporters at the $15 level to see if they have a con artist story that they wanted to talk about. And one listener, his name is Michael, which you'll meet in just a second, had this amazing story, but it's not about con artists, but it's definitely about pretending to do something else. So I'm not going to spoil it for you, but here's our conversation. Hey everyone, I'm here with Michael, who is a longtime Pretend listener. He says he's been listening to the show for about 18 months, and I'm doing this new thing where I'm inviting Patreon supporters to co-host an episode with me. And I said, hey, Michael, let's pick a con artist to talk to. And then he somehow mentioned that he has a really interesting hobby. And so I was like, forget the con artist. Let's talk about your hobby, which actually has a lot to do with pretending, right, Michael?
I think so. Absolutely.
Tell the people, tell them what you do.
So I believe I have the record. I am the worst performing competitive air guitarist in the world.
Air guitar.
That's right. Air guitar. Competitive air guitar, no less.
Pretending to play the guitar.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have so many questions for you, but like the first one is, how did you get into competitive air guitar, let alone just air guitar? How'd you get into air guitar?
Fair question. So I was living in Atlanta, and there was a club called the Earl that was right behind my house, like essentially 2 blocks behind my house. And there was this little flyer saying they were having an air guitar competition, and I like to do things I'd never done before. So I went over there and had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I was just blown away by the interesting cast of characters. There were people dressed up in all sorts of crazy garb and setting themselves on fire and all sorts of interesting things going on that I kind of fell in love with it right away.
Well, I wanted to show people. I don't know if can you see this?
Yeah.
I don't know if the audience could hear it, but this is you playing air guitar.
Yeah. So
with a cape, which,
so that
half the time you can't see the actual guitar,
Yeah. So that performance, I had just moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I should probably qualify with this with I've never been great with the ladies, and I had just met this woman and I wanted to impress her. So I thought air guitar was the way to go somehow. And I wound up performing at the symphony, right? It's sort of like it was I don't know what it was, but they invited me to come perform with all these other classical musicians and do air guitar.
And you were the only one?
I was the only air guitarist.
Oh my God.
The reason I'm wearing that garb is I was doing Kiss's God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
Yeah.
And I kind of was just messing with people. And so I went out in that religious sort of garb. And I was like, everyone, please rise, really softly. And everyone got out of their chairs, really, serious like. And I was like, well, now that I've shown you the awesome power of air guitar, can we please be seated? And I was just kind of running with that religious theme from the Kiss song.
Well, I thought it was pretty epic. And so go back. So in this scenario, you were just trying to impress a girl. And
I'm married to her now, by the way. So it does work.
It worked. Well, but I would imagine that what happened there was confidence, right? Because you have to have confidence if you're going to go up on stage, especially in that scenario with a cape, with no shirt, and in front of classically trained musicians.
Right. Very serious people.
So, I mean, it's all about the confidence, right?
Right. Yeah, I think so. To be fair, right? Like I said in the beginning, I am a poor performing air guitarist, but what I was very good at was promotions. And so after that first event in in Atlanta, I was living in Nashville and they never brought it back to the South. And I kind of wrote them an angry email that was like, well, we're the home of rock and roll and blues and jazz music. And why are you here? And they kind of responded with well, we can't turn a profit, but if you think you can do it, good luck. We'll license it to you. I'm the kind of guy that if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to probably have a chip on my shoulder and aggressively go about proving you wrong. So that's how I wound up actually doing most of the air guitar work. Was I wanted to perform, so I threw my own events and let other people compete, and so I could just do my little performance.
That's hysterical. Did it take off right away, or was it hard to?
I was surprisingly successful for Nashville. I had a lot of success right away. We put a lot of people in there, and just related to confidence, I think that was my favorite thing about being the promoter. Right, was like the hardest part is recruiting people to compete, not putting butts in the seats. And so that was always my pitch, was sort of like, if you get up and pretend to play guitar in front of these people for a minute, like your life will never be the same again. You will have a different walk, a different attitude about everything. And plus, you get to play air guitar whenever you want at all times because you are competitive air guitars. And I think you're right.
Strings never break.
Yeah.
Yeah, the strings never. So I guess I'm dying to know, are you a musician? Like, do you actually play any instruments?
So I hung up the microphone in like 2015, but I sang in heavy metal bands for about 10 years. I had all local, maybe a little regional, but I had a band out in Nashville that we had some success with, and mainly because I had connections from promoting air guitar that allowed me to be somewhat, more successful as a local promoter than my band maybe deserved, or maybe that I deserved. I was definitely the least talented member of my band. So.
And why do you keep saying that? Why do you keep saying you're the least talented air guitarist? Because I've been watching.
Because I've taken dead last in almost every single competition I've been in.
All right. So now it comes to, let's just go there. What are they judging you on exactly? Because I think they all kind of look like. It's supposed to look kind of bad, right? Like you're not supposed to look like Eric Clapton, right?
Yeah, I think, for me, I never took it particularly seriously, right? I thought it was fun and irreverent. And it was an interesting way to throw events that could raise some money and awareness for some nonprofits. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the other folks, the people that are real ambassadors for this, take it very seriously and spend a lot of time, getting their moves down, being prepared for their events, which I did none of. In terms of what they're evaluating you on, the first one is technical merit, but I would say that really doesn't matter unless everything else is equal.
Let's break that down though. Are they judging you like how you fret the guitar, or?
I think, so every judge is going to be kind of different, but I think the general vibe when I was prepping judges was, pretend like it's one string. So if the song is going up, move your hand, up the neck. If it's going down, move it down. To the extent that you can be strumming when the song is strumming and not strumming when there's nothing happening. Sort of that level of expertise. They actually find guitarists that play the actual song their technical merit score might be very high, but the rest of their scores tend to be low.
So I've noticed you dropped the ball or the guitar a couple of times. Is it on an invisible strap?
Yeah, sort of. I think that's part of the technical merit, right? Like they want you, if you drop your guitar, to pick it back up again. So I kind of am a charismatic guy, so like I don't like to be encumbered by my invisible instrument, and I like to pretend it's more like a piece of spaghetti than a wooden block. So
yeah, let's watch one more because I thoroughly enjoyed this. So here's a video, and I guess it's just you just doing this in your living room or whatever.
Yeah, after I started doing this, when folks in my life that I care about were having a hard time or whatever, I started just sending them air guitar videos to cheer them up, because I just sort of feel like you were saying earlier, it's hard to be down when someone is doing something this ridiculous for you. So this is one of those that I dug up. Yeah,
it looks like it's having some streaming issues, but yeah, basically you're in your living room and it's awesome because there's so much showmanship, that you're putting into it. And what I was saying before we hit record was that how can anybody be unhappy watching air guitar? It's such a positive sport. And like from what I've seen from the competitors out there and the competitions, like nobody's ever tearing anybody down, like saying, oh, you did it wrong. Yeah. I mean, they're always like building people up. Very
Yeah,
fun.
I think, I will say that air guitar is one of the great surprises of my life. When I first started it, it was really kind of more like I alluded to an egotistical thing of like, oh, you don't think I could do this? Well, you're betting on the wrong horse. But it turned out to be this amazing community of eccentric, loving, kind, generous people from all over the world. And, you're exactly right. The whole point of this is positivity, right? The mission of World Air Guitar is world peace, because you cannot hold a gun while you are playing your air guitar. that is what it was founded for in the 70s. And U.S. Air Guitar has started, I think, about 10 years after that, and does a really good job of maintaining that. That being said, there's certainly a competitive element to it, which I was not expecting. Like when I threw my first event, I thought we were kind of like all hanging out, having fun, but no, man. They were all keeping individual scores and coming and making sure that our scores reconciled with their scores. I was kind of blown away by the dichotomy of how much they were supportive of everyone else, but also very much there to win. And there were individual guitarists that were going from city to city to city to try and get an advance into the next round.
And this is a worldwide thing, right?
Yes.
It didn't start
all
here,
over the world,
right? It didn't start in the U.S.
No, it
right?
started in Finland, where all great weird sports started, like boot tossing and wife carrying, and air guitar. I've been to 2 world events that last both times. Like I said, didn't even make it on the main stage, but in both times we had people from every continent, I believe, and just some really crazy fun stuff. It was very interesting getting on the train in Finland the next morning and having like the #1 news story: who won the air guitar competition.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and going back to what you were saying about the world peace and it starting in Finland, I mean, from what I've read, it actually started as a way to establish world peace, right?
Yeah, it's the mission statement. They weren't joking. So,
I mean, I could just imagine, Republicans and Democrats in Capitol Hill, how much better we would get along if they could just shred some.
I totally
guitar,
agree.
Right?
I think you break down barriers, right?
Yeah. Like who cares, like about all this political crap or all this artificial tension? Just play some air guitar, man.
I like that word, artificial, or that turn of phrase, artificial tension. I think air guitar would cut through that pretty well.
That's right. Well, you know what I thought was pretty interesting watching you and other people who are competing in air guitar is that you're not just playing an imaginary guitar, you're also lip syncing, which is also a form of pretending, right? Like,
sure.
So how important is the lip syncing and getting that right?
So that's not, I would say it's not technically part of the judging. The other 2 components besides technical merit are stage presence and airness. So, and airness, I've heard it described numerous different ways. The way that I've told my judges to think about it was to the extent that air guitar is lifted to an art form. And so I think the sort of the lip syncing, the other performance, if you're going to do some air drumming or hit an air bass line or do a cartwheel, some people dance, is kind of in that airness component, right? Are you doing some more besides just pretending to play the guitar to take this to be something that is, in uplifting, expansive, right? And certainly memorable, right? We want people to remember that evening.
Well, it's so funny because you sent me a video of you were playing to a song by Muse. It was called Reapers. But you were almost playing the guitar like a drum, which I've never seen that before. And I wasn't sure if you just got into it.
Probably we're just having a good time. I think so. The way the competitions work is the first round you have. So first of all, 1 minute is a very long time to play air guitar. It is exhausting after a minute. And I run marathons, it's exhausting. And so the first round, you do a 1 minute clip that is your song, right? So I think I usually do Guns N' Roses or Pantera. So I think whatever the first round of that competition was one of those. Then in the second round, they just drop one on you, and you kind of get to hear it once, or if you maybe a couple times, and then you have to go. So that was a second round song, which I had never heard before, and I'm just trying to do the best I can. When I was speaking to how competitive some of the folks are, a lot of the people will listen to every single surprise song ever played at any qualifier, so they have something ready for anything should it show up. I clearly do not do that.
So this one's playing. Let's see. This is the one we were talking about, right?
Yes. Starting the song off. There we go. Pointing to the sky. It's the unofficial start.
You see, and your guitar, like it's very long.
Yes, a huge guitar. We all have air guitar stage names. Mine is Giant Jump. So I have a giant guitar.
This is the one where I don't even know if you're holding a guitar anymore. You're just you're playing the drums.
I'm having a lot of fun. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Look at how long that guitar is.
Oh, whammy pedal.
Man.
There we go.
There we go. That's awesome. Very, very fun, man. I've been having a blast just diving into this world. We talk about, I talk to so many people on my show that are part of subcultures, and some are pretty scary.
Yeah.
But this is like a subculture that should make it to the mainstream, I think. I think this should be something that we do at parties, just play air guitar,
I love that idea, It's a challenge, right? I mean, it is a difficult thing to promote and to pull off. It is much more difficult than putting 4 bands on a stage and a back line. There's a lot that goes into it. And then you've got to take some risk, that depending on how you're setting it up. Some people I think have tried to do like little regional qualifiers at house parties before. When I moved here to Charlotte, I was trying to set up and get another Charlotte air guitar chapter going, but I ran into trouble with venues, right? Like in Nashville, people were comfortable letting me run the venue. We work out a relationship financially. It's my club for the night, no problem. Down here or up here, I guess people are much more protective over that booking, and so it's a tough thing to sell, right?
And I would imagine with COVID too, like all the bands that had schedules in 2000 are trying to schedule now. So like finding a venue now is probably important.
Yeah.
Maybe you should find an imaginary venue.
Well, they did a great job with virtual stuff the past couple of years. And one of the cool things that I thought was with COVID and going virtual, they could open it up to sort of all ages. Yeah. So my events were always 21 and over because I needed to sell alcohol, right? And so that's just the way it was. And, I couldn't have an 8-year-old. But virtually this year, there's a married couple who are just incredible, and their child was competing this year, which was really awesome to see. They've been supporters of mine since the very first time in Atlanta or in Nashville, and I think that's I'd like to see more people get into it if we can continue to figure ways to kind of break around the business side barriers of just what is the entertainment, especially at the local level. It's a very competitive, egocentric business with tight margins. So we're going to bring a bunch of people in costumes who pretend to play guitar for a minute. Trust me, it's going to go great. From someone that no one knows on the scene before, it's a tough pitch.
It's a tough sell. Yeah,
it's tough. And I got to work with a bunch of people over the years that were trying to do it themselves on the promoter side. And we all had different challenges in different places. One of the most counterintuitive things was the bigger markets sometimes were the hardest places to sell. LA struggled versus Iowa. Sometimes they're packing it in,
Right. So, hey, you never know. So one last question. Do people in your real life know about this air guitar hobby of yours?
Yes. It's kind of hard. If you Google my full name, like I used to have a mullet that was rainbow colored and most of the pictures, I don't have any social media presence outside of what I have to maintain for business reasons. So like almost everything of me online is air guitar oriented in some way. So
it's not like a little hobby. I mean, it's part of who you are.
It was a big part of my identity in Nashville. It was a significant part of it, and I mean, it was tied to fundraising. We were working to raise funds and awareness for a nonprofit, which was kind of one of the ways that I got around some of those business issues we were talking about and get it started. So, in Charlotte, where I live now, I lived here for 4 years. The people in my life know about it for sure, but I haven't been able to kind of take it out into a broader scene. We'll see what happens with COVID opens up. If there's an opportunity, it's so much fun.
I'm only 2 hours away, man. So if you can pull it off, I promise you I will be at your show.
Well, maybe we should look outside of Charlotte into like Raleigh or Asheville.
Hey, try it. Yeah, Asheville's, you never know.
That could work. So
it'll be fun. Yeah. If I ever do a live show, you could be my opening act.
Absolutely.
I lied about the one question though, because or the last question, because I started thinking, I was like, is this a sport designed or a competition designed for extroverts? Are there like introverts that do this too? Or?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like a smaller microcosm of in performers of sort of like the professional wrestling audience, right? There's all walks of life love wrestling. Like all walks of life, there's somebody in there that loves wrestling, and sort of the same thing for performers. They're all different types of people. What's really cool is when they all get together, right? When we do these gatherings, then those sort of, I don't know what you call them, but sort of whatever walls we've built around ourselves or assumptions we've made ourselves kind of crumble, and everyone just kind of melts together, and you get to really see, how people view themselves and how they view each other, and most importantly, how they view air guitar as this driving, positive, bizarre force in their lives. So. Well,
Michael, I definitely have the bug. I would love to try it one day. I think it would be fun.
Awesome.
I think anybody who's listening or watching this right now, like, try it out. Like,
absolutely.
You have no idea how good of a stress reliever it could be, right?
It's one of my go-tos when I'm feeling down.
That was my terrible attempt at air guitar. And by the way, it is almost impossible to play air guitar without going doo-doo-doo-doo-doo or some sort of song. Anyways, you should try it. If you want to co-host an episode with me, just visit patreon.com/pretendradio or pretendradio.org/donate. I'll have a link in the show notes, and I would love to talk with you. So far, I've done 2 of these, and it's been fascinating. So go on to pretendradio.org/donate and support a small independent podcast like mine. Help it keep going, because it's really just me. And in the process, you'll get a really cool pretend screen printed t-shirt. It's actually not a pretend t-shirt. It's a real t-shirt. Everybody loves it. It's super soft. Some free stickers and a half hour to an hour conversation with yours truly. So I can't wait to hear what you guys have next. Take care.